Hi, I'm Felicia.
And I'm Giancarlo.
And this is
hair.
our review of...
Hangtown. Why are you so grumpy?
Oh, because I'm not allowed to speak anymore, so go ahead.
In Hangtown, players play as pioneers during the Gold Rush era in the American West. By the end of the game, the player with the most victory points wins. For this review, we'll use the Discovery setup, used for beginner players, and then talk about the High Grade mode, used for experienced players. The main board and Discovery board will be placed as such. You'll place the Outlaw on the Workday Yield side along with the round marker on 1. All the currency in the game, called bucks, will be placed in between. Players will start with 4 bucks each. They'll also choose a color and receive their matching Pioneer, along with 4 of their matching dudes, placing the rest in a reserve. They'll receive all their face cards as well as their player deck, which will be set up for Discovery mode by removing some cards from the game. They'll start their tableau or town with Main Street and Union Cemetery, easily found with the noose icon on the top left corner. They'll shuffle the rest to form a deck and draw 2 for their starting hand. Form the market as such, making sure the copy with the bonus text is on top of the other. Place all 5 paid dirt tokens in the bag and keep it within reach as well as the dice. Randomly place the player order markers here and you're ready to play.
Discovery mode is played over 4 rounds made up of 5 turns each. Basically, when the Outlaw reaches the shootout yield space, we finish up that turn. Move the round marker down and repeat the process. Each turn will have players take actions. To do so, they'll choose one of the available 5 actions they want to perform by placing its face card face down with their Pioneer token on top. When all have done so, they reveal their cards and place their Pioneer token on the yield matching the action they selected. Now before we move on, let's see what the actions do. Workday will have your deployed dudes perform work on spaces marked with 1 and or have this icon on them. Here you'll simply remove the dude, place it in the reserve, and gain the benefit marked on the space you removed him from. Deploy Dude action allows you to place dudes from your pool to the leftmost empty space of a card or discovery board. If that space is taken, you cannot place a dude there, nor on the next space to the right. It must be the leftmost available space. Build Town allows you to build a town card from your hand or one from the market. The price will be listed on the top left corner. They'll usually require specific amounts of dudes and bucks or a combination of both. When built, return the resources used to the reserve and place the build card in your town. You cannot have 2 same titled town cards. Roundup is where you can acquire dudes from the reserve to your pool. You can't have more than 12 dudes in your pool, unless you have one of the 2 soda works with the bonus. Lastly, Shootout will have you place dudes on your main street to become gunmen and defend the town when the Outlaw reaches that phase. Now, let's go back to when actions are selected.
Depending on the number of Pioneer tokens or which yield space they've been placed on, actions for that turn become a boom or a bust. Booms will have you gain bonuses during that action, whereas busts will have that action be less efficient. I'm not going to go on all the details, but we'll show you this Discovery reference sheet for you to look at. Basically, most actions with a boom allow you to receive, use, or place more dudes and keep cards in your hand when building, whereas a bust action will limit you in receiving, using, or placing dudes and make you discard when building. You can offset this penalty by paying $1 for each dude you want to use more of or cards you wish to keep. So how do we determine which yield busts or booms? When Pioneers are placed after action selection, look for these criteria. First, if there's a Pioneer in the same yield as the Outlaw, that is the bust yield for that turn, and all others are boom yields. If no Pioneers share a yield with the Outlaw, then the bust yield becomes the one with the most Pioneers in it, and again, all other yields boom. Lastly, if there's no Pioneer token with an Outlaw, and there are no yields with the most Pioneer, tied for most do not count as most, then all yields boom that turn. When yields have been determined, if they're boom or bust, the actions will be performed in phase order 1 to 5. If 2 players are in the same yield, actions are performed in player turn order. These can change should a player deploy a dude on the mayor spot. Now, should you, for one reason or another, decide not to take that action when you get to your yield, maybe because it's a bust, you can choose to pass. Passing will instantly garner you $1, and should you have pass actions in your hand, you can play up to 2 of them to do their effects. A quick thing to remember is whenever a card is discarded in this game, it immediately gets reshuffled back in your deck. When all players have taken their action or passed, they take back their Pioneer and Face card back, and the Outlaw moves to the next event space before going on to the next yield space, where players repeat the process. Let's take a look at these events.
These events take place before the Outlaw moves to the next yield. Gold Buck Mine lets each player draw 2 pay dirt tokens, get the amount of bucks listed, and place them back, giving the bag to the next player. In the bag you'll find 2 times 3 buck tokens, 2 times 2 bucks token, and 1 times 1 buck token. The Bonanza event will trigger twice in a round, first here then another time here. Simply put all dudes placed on cards or the discovery board will move 1 space to the right. The wagon train will simply have each player gain a dude from the reserve to their pool. Lastly, the snowshoe Thompson mail will have each player draw a card from their deck. Now let's talk about the end of a round when the Outlaw reaches the final shootout phase.
At the end of this turn, the first player will roll 2 dice and place the highest or equal value die next to the Outlaw. This is his power. In player order, each will roll a die. Should they roll higher, they beat the Outlaw. Place an Outlaw dude in their cemetery. These will be worth victory points as listed on the tombstone space they placed it on. Should they roll the same, they tied and nothing happens. Lastly, should they roll less, they must lose a number of gunmen by how much they lost by. Then if there's still a deficit to settle, they'll take that many dudes from their reserve and place it on their cemetery card. These will count as negative points at the end game as listed on their tombstone. So place the Outlaws in the top row and your own dudes on the bottom row. Remaining gunmen will stay there for the next rounds. At the end of this phase, move the round marker down and start a new round with the Outlaw triggering the Snowshoe Thompson mail event and the going back of the workday yield. At the end of the 4th round, each player will count their final scores. They'll total their victory points on their built town cards, VPs with question marks criteria, VPs gained or lost in the cemetery, and VPs for remaining resources. Each combination of 3 buck and or dudes will grant them 1 VP. The player with the most is the best in the West.
Before we move to final thoughts, here's a quick synopsis of high-grade rules. The discovery board is returned to the box. Cards will be added to each player's deck, and their starting hand will be all the 2 buck plus 2 dude cards. The market will now have 8 more cards of 4 different type each. And of course, the game will last 6 rounds, or if at the beginning of the 5th round, a player has 12 or more cards in their tableau, the game ends. What is really interesting is how the yield sites work. Busts are determined almost the same, but on top of busts and booms, a site can just become common, making boom sites that much more rare. The player in which is on a boom yield can become first player in that turn order track. This makes deduction of what action other players might take that much more interesting.
I love this game. It blends really well familiar mechanics like action selection, worker placement, resource management, planning, and guessing what your opponents will do. It's a very Euro game with a very American theme, which is nice. It's very well captured through design, which is also really practical, and components, which are very good stock. The game plays really smoothly as well, and it actually looks more complicated than it really is. That said, the game provides lots of tactics and long-term strategy, and more importantly, it offers choice in terms of strategy. You can go for districts and try to get the El Dorado County seat bonus for the end game, go for double outlaw points with the courthouse bonus, and many other options. And the choice one makes are pretty balanced. That said, as much as there's choice with strategy, I've seen the same player bust many times over choice of action. And that's because with the outlaw on a yield, there only remains 4 choices in which it's possible not to bust. And sometimes, there's even less choice than that. I mean, you're not going to take the build town action when you don't have the resources for it. But what I do like is the fact that busting can be offset by paying for it. So it doesn't really affect the game that much, so only half-point penalty in terms of luck. What I felt like is a full con was more the issue of scaling. First time we played it, it was at 3 players, and that's when you need to place another Pioneer token on the action board. He can really affect your yield's bust or boom determination. Personally, I think the best number for this game is played at 4+. And if you have 4 to 6 players that like Euro-style games, I'm definitely recommending this one. Some independent published games are better than the tired, rehashed, or reskinned mechanics of games from big name publishers. And Hangtown is one such example, and it'll remain in my collection. Especially with its many expansions already included in the box, this game has a lot of replay value. It gets an 8.5 out of 10. Do I want to know? Do we want to know?
I was like, hang twin. What the fuck is a hang twin?
How do you read?
Because look!
Oh,
the
hang-
little moose is a thing. So quick, I was like, oh my god, it's hang
Quick.
twin. Quick.
Hangtown.
You know? Quick, like Giancarlo.
Which is
just
actually a
that.
real place. Well,
It's
it
just
was a
like-
real place back then. It used to be called Hangtown, but now it's called Placerville.
Mm.
Wow! You could feign some interest, like just a little bit. Like
care.
You're checking to see if you got your Celine Dion. She spent $1,800 on Celine Dion
8
tickets.
Celine Dion tickets, and that I just got a response from someone saying, "You're the best. Thank you so much." Like, yes, I'll tell my friend she wanted them so bad. You're the best. Thank you so much. See, Felicia is the best.